As you begin taking on Kenshi's most difficult challenges, plated armor plays a crucial role in keeping your characters in the fight and preventing life-threatening injuries. In this guide, we'll be taking a look at all armor pieces that can be crafted at the heavy armor smithy and evaluating how useful each piece is. The only exclusions will be for headgear, since that armor slot will be getting its own dedicated episode. With all that being said, let's start with what many would consider to be the best armor type in the game. Crab armor is generally acquired in the later stages of the game, and it stands out as the most defensive plated armor available. It has full coverage over the chest and the stomach, with a solid 90% coverage of the left and right arm. The burning and acid resistance also makes it so your characters can power through even the worst of weather conditions. Crab armor isn't for all characters though, because its defensive statistics carry a heavy cost. The most significant debuff is by far the dexterity reduction, but as you can see, there are plenty of other debuffs going on beyond just dexterity. Suffice it to say that crab armor is primarily for making characters tanky. It's not for stealth, martial arts, or ranged builds, and it's certainly not for any characters who rely on dexterity for damage. If you want to keep a character alive though, there isn't a better option available than crab armor. Crab armor's closest competition in its category though is samurai armor. With samurai armor, you have great coverage percentages and a competitive amount of cut and blunt resistance. Samurai armor also has less severe combat penalties compared to crab armor. If you've ever fought United City Samurai, then you know just how durable their armor is. Much like with crab armor, your harpoon resistance is going to be quite high with samurai armor, and cut damage from animals is going to be heavily resisted. While the samurai armor does have its own debuffs, they aren't as harsh as the ones for crab armor, but you are missing out on the extra protection and environmental resistances offered by crab armor, so bear that in mind. Overall, I'd give samurai armor high marks for its utility. For those not living in an environment with acid rain, you might find samurai armor to be more practical than crab armor. Moving on to the tank top armor preferred by the Holy Nation, we have the Holy Chest Plate and the Unholy Chest Plate. Both of these armor types will have the same statistics, so it's just going to be a matter of preference whether you go for the white variant or the black variant. As a heavy armor option, the Holy Chest Plate fares pretty well, with its main downside being the lack of arm coverage. So consider wearing a leather turtleneck or chainmail if you're looking to make up for the arm coverage. Despite the lower arm coverage, this piece still excels in providing chest and stomach protection, as a tad lighter than samurai and crab armor, and on account of it having less coverage, it also has fewer stat debuffs. The Holy Chest Plate presents an interesting trade-off too. Rather than having more extensive coverage on the arms, you get 40% coverage of both legs. While it would be hard to authoritatively say if this is an even trade, I would say that leg coverage is way more important than arm coverage. So if you like the style of this armor piece, you might opt to go for it rather than the samurai or the crab armor. And it is worth mentioning that the Holy Chest Plate has a 95% cut resistance efficiency, which gives it an edge on samurai armor, actually granting it more cut resistance than you would otherwise get with the samurai armor. If you're looking for plated armor that provides better arm protection and lower stat debuffs compared to crab and samurai armor, you're going to want to go with the Mercenary Plate. Mercenary Plate armor occupies an interesting spot where it has a blend of different qualities that separates it from the other armors we've discussed. With this armor type, you're going to get 100% chest coverage, 70% on the stomach, and then 90% for both arms. 90% on the arms, that's good. We like that. The 70% on the stomach is a little bit worrisome, but 70% is still pretty high. Where this armor really shines is in its less severe debuff. Similar to the Holy Plate, it's just not going to reduce your character stats as much compared to crab and samurai armor. Most notably, your crossbows and dodge skill will only have a 70% multiplier, which still gives you a decent amount of each if you wanted to equip this armor on a martial artist or someone using a crossbow. And the dexterity modifier of 0.8 is the second best that we've seen so far. Samurai armor is still going to have a better dexterity debuff at 0.85, but 0.8 is quite good. So I wouldn't discount the Mercenary Plate armor entirely. I would say it is a bit of a straggler compared to the other armors we've discussed, but the true loser here is going to be the piece that we discuss next. The armored rags are a god-awful piece, and if you want to know why the Shek Kingdom has not invaded the Holy Nation, just take a look at these coverage stats. The armored rags weigh a sizable 15 kilograms and only have 20% stomach coverage. This is unacceptable. It's indecent. It's disgraceful. And you have on top of that 90% chest coverage, which isn't awful. But the 20% stomach coverage is unforgivable. You're already weighing an armor that is heavier than most other pieces in the game, with only the other plated armors we've discussed earlier being heavier, and you're not even getting appropriate stomach coverage. To pile on insult to injury, the arm coverage is only 80%, which is below average. And what do you get for this trade-off in coverage? A measly +4 to martial arts. This is obscene. To have a piece this heavy lose out to all other armors in its weight class. And as we're going to discuss next, armors that weigh less than this piece outperform it too. So if you've gotten the impression that I don't recommend this armor, that is correct. Let's move on. For those looking for plated armor that is lighter than the pieces we've just discussed, but is still perfectly functional, you have hope in the plate jacket. The plate jacket comes in 3 variants: the regular type, the white type, and then the black type. Each of these have very similar statistics, but technically the white and the black variants of the plate jacket are an upgrade from the regular variant, though you would be just fine using the regular variant because the stats are similar. The plate jacket has solidified itself among my favorite armor pieces because it strikes a great balance between weight and coverage. All prior armors that we've discussed have weighed 15 kilograms or more, and with the plate jackets, you just have a weight of 5 kilograms. But even with reducing the weight, you still retain a decent amount of coverage. So the plate jacket ends up being a step above most leather armor while being much lighter than the heavier armors. The coverage for the plate jacket is wonderful as well. You have 100% chest, stomach, right arm, and left arm coverage. That's exactly what you want to see, and the plate jacket has it. The plate jacket is so good that I'll sometimes find myself buying it from vendors. If I can't craft it and it's early game, then I might just buy it, because it's just nice to have characters with 100% coverage for their entire upper body. The acid protection that this piece provides is also top of mind for me, because when you combine that 40% resistance with Drifter's leather pants, or a rattan hat, or an iron hat, you're going to have as much acid protection as you need to go to regions where acid rain would normally be a problem. To parse through the specific differences between each of these plate jacket variants, the black plate jacket stands out for not having a stealth debuff, while the white plate jacket has its dexterity penalty reduced by 5% compared to the other types. So for general use, the white plate jacket is technically going to be better. And if you have stealth characters, you might just want to give them the black plate jacket, because while it doesn't buff your stealth, it doesn't detract from it either. So you can have a stealth character with a decent amount of protection while they're sneaking around. And the last piece of plated armor that can be crafted at the Heavy Armor Smithy is the Heart Protector. Heart Protector is a bit of a meme piece. I mean, look at it. It has decent resistance numbers and a respectable harpoon resistance, but that 50% chest coverage is doing it no favors. So with this, you get no stomach coverage, and your chest coverage is a coin flip. That's not great. I mean, as an American, I know you'd have better luck turning your backpack around and filling it with college textbooks if you wanted protection, rather than wearing a heart protector. But it only weighs 3 kilograms, so it's better than nothing. Its sell value is also quite high considering how useless it is. But like I said, it's better than nothing. And I guess technically it's in the light armor class. But aside from crafting these in bulk to sell them, I don't see much of a purpose for intentionally crafting or buying this piece of armor. Moving into lower body armor that can be crafted at the heavy armor smithy, we have the armored rag skirt. I used to have a pretty low opinion of this piece, but I can see how it could be useful for some martial arts characters, and maybe early in the game you'd have access to this before some other types. The main issues I have are the lack of harpoon resistance though, and the relatively low leg coverage of 60%. Nevertheless, if you're looking for plated leg armor which is lighter than the other types, the armored rag skirt could be a good fit. To offset the 60% leg coverage, you could wear some plated boots as another layer of protection, but just know that 60% coverage on both legs might disappoint you if your character takes a lot of hits. Moving on to what is undoubtedly the gold standard for lower body protection, we have the samurai leg plates. Samurai leg plates do come with some significant penalties, but these are to be expected for the plated armor category. Even though samurai leg plates are the heaviest in their category, their coverage more than makes up for it, with there even being 50% stomach coverage. Since I don't really have any objective complaints about the samurai leg plates, they're just clearly the best in this category. I will say they do look pretty goofy on certain characters depending on what other kinds of armor they're wearing. They have a sort of a baggy appearance that can look rather obnoxious. So let's talk about some other suitable lower body armor options if you think that your characters look a little silly wearing the samurai leg plates. Now, crab trousers don't offer the same amount of coverage as samurai leg plates, but they are 3 kilograms lighter and don't have as much of a stealth debuff. Their cut and blunt resistances are respectable. Crab trousers also beat out all other leg slot options, aside from the samurai leg plates, when it comes to lower body protection. So they're still a great choice for your faction if you're looking for something different. And even though they are the underdog here, the plated drifters leather pants are more than good enough for a lower body armor slot. Coming in at an even lighter weight of 8.1 kilograms, this is the plated version of the Drifter's leather pants. And I like the Drifter's leather pants, so I also think that the plated version is quite good. To put it bluntly, this armor type is for those who want plated armor on their characters, but don't want to have to deal with the severe debuffs. Unlike crab trousers and samurai leg plates, plated drifters leather pants at their highest quality don't have athletics, combat speed, or martial arts debuffs. This means that if you can stomach the 0.8 dodge modifier, you could even have a martial artist wear these pants. I still wouldn't recommend it for stealth characters though, but overall the plated drifters leather pants are much more versatile and accessible compared to the crab trousers and the samurai leg plates. For the boots slot in the metal plate category, we first have samurai boots, and they're the best. Similar to how the samurai leg plates are the best for lower body, the boot slot is dominated by the samurai boots. They just offer the greatest amount of protection, 40% on each leg, with the highest amount of cut and blunt resistance compared to other slots. The other option for the boot category is going to be plated long boots. These are very good too. By all rights, they're just number 2 here. They don't have quite as much coverage as the samurai boots, but they are quite good nonetheless. But most importantly, on the masterwork version of the plated long boots, there are no dodge penalties, martial arts penalties, or athletics penalties. So these are probably the most well-rounded boot slot pick. Not the highest protection, but you can put them on just about any character and they'll do just fine. And despite how stylish they are, it is sort of a no-brainer here. The crab shoes are quite bad. They're quite bad. They do earn high marks for aesthetic value, but their coverage is just far too low and you're giving up too much as far as debuffs for them to be taken seriously. To be fair though, if you're wearing a full set of crab armor, giving up the coverage on your legs probably isn't going to make much of a difference. So crab enthusiasts out there, have at it. Now, before you head on out, if you have not watched my video on armor statistics and leather armor, you definitely should check that out. That was the first video in this series, and it covered what the different statistics indicate for each piece of armor. And if you want to see more armor guides like this one, feel free to comment and like on this video. All of your support is much appreciated. I will see you in the next one.